time, so that he attended 12 different schools before finishing grade 12. That's not very good. He learned to sail as a child in his parents' lightning dinghy. He attended university in Quebec and practiced law in Toronto for 34 years before his retirement any day now. David is a former shark owner and a former Commodore of the Toronto Sailing and Canoe Club. He took up radio sailing about 30 years ago and presently is the sail captain of the Metro Marine Modelers. In radio sailing, he has been the Canadian champion of the Soling 1 meter class, and has finished in the top 5 in the US 3 times. His YouTube video, Tuning the Soling, has reached 50,000 views. And Rick was also sail captain of Metro Marine Modelers before David was. He's been in Toronto for a long time, has a place at Long Point, and sailed dinghies when he was much younger. But 9 years ago, when he was living in a condo and the family had moved there, he met a guy in the elevator with a model boat, and he said, "What's that all about?" And the guy took him down to Humber Bay Park East, and the rest is history. And so I ask you to give both David and Rick a warm Shellback welcome.
Well, thank you for the warm welcome. It's always fun to talk about boats. And so let's do that. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them as we go along. What I thought we would do is tell you a little bit about our club, the Metro Marine Modelers, tell you a little bit about radio-controlled sailboats, and tell you a little bit about racing radio-controlled sailboats. And then we'll decamp upstairs, and those of you who want to give a try to sailing either that one there or this one here are welcome to do it. You cannot break the boat. It should be fine. If anything really bad goes wrong, Rick here can swim very well. So the Metro Marine Modelers has basically got 3 sections. There are scale modelers who make exquisite museum quality reproductions of historical boats, and they can be found in museums all over Ontario. And we've suggested that they may want to come and talk to you as well. If you are looking for topics sometime, they do wonderful work, and they have tremendous knowledge if you're interested in scale shipbuilding. The intricacies of that can be quite deep. The other group that we have, apart from the sail group, is scale modelers or static scale modelers. They make operating boats of all different kinds. And they were just running them on the pool the other day. Everything from tugboats to battleships. Anything you can think of, they'll make one and run on the water. The largest component of our club is the sail group. And most of our preoccupation is with racing. Most of the classes that we race are one design sailboats. So the rules are fairly constrained. That one at the end has been the most popular class for many years. It's called a Soling 1 meter. That particular one is kind of beat up old example of it. They recently stopped making them, and then they're about to restart. So the price of them has gone up significantly. So if you have one in your basement and you want to get rid of it, this might be the time. We race, the most popular class we have now is this one in the middle. It's 65 centimeters long. It's very light. It's a high performance boat. And Dan is going to turn the letters for us. It rewards precise tuning and setting the shape of the sails quite accurately. And it rewards good sail handling. It's easy to stall it when you're tacking if you're not careful. But a little bit of practice and a little bit of skill, and you're good to go. This video that's running in the background, these are the 65s. in a regatta. So every now and then you'll see somebody stall out, but you'll see how quickly they accelerate and how quickly they stop if you mishandle them. The way that the boats work is pretty simple. It's all been kind of simplified. There is no motor to propel it. The only thing that propels it is the sails. And you can see that they're kind of a caricature of a full-size boat. There's a great deal of sail area and a deep keel, and the whole thing is very light. And there's enough sail wind power, even on a calm day, that the boat will come back. Maybe not quickly. You have to wait for a few minutes, but it will come back. So we've never had to row out and rescue boats that would be calm. And this class of boat, for example, there are several sets of sails. So the sea rig, the heavy weather rig is quite short and designed to keep you still sailing even when the wind is blowing you over sideways. The boat can still go. We have modified these. The kit comes with what we call the A rig, and you'll see one somewhere. If you see one with a picture of the dragon on the sail, that one's 41. That's the A rig that comes with the kit, and it's a fractional rig. You can see the jib only comes part of the way up. Because we get mostly light air here, and because we're greedy, we use a rig with a masthead jib and a little more power, and that pushes the cost of the kit and the boat to about $350. And it comes with the radio, it comes with the servos already installed. It's not quite ready to run, you have to assemble a little bit, but you don't have to. The radio and servos are already in it, and you're not allowed to swap them out, so that it's one design racing in the sense that you can't modify the hull, you can't modify the gear. There's very little you can change, just fix it up, tune it up, and sail it. You should be able to swap transmitters with the other sails and race pretty much even.
There are different radio frequencies that each participant is using?
There are. The technology is improving in many ways, and one of the ways is the radios we use have the same technology as your cordless phone, which means it will only talk to the base unit. So the transmitter there and the boat there will only talk to each other. This is a nice improvement over the previous system where we had 32 different frequencies, but sometimes they could kind of interfere with each other. Even if you were sure that you weren't on the same channel, you still got a little crosstalk and your boat would suddenly do a pirouette just as you were about to cross the finish line, which was a little aggravating. It was very Trudeau-esque, but it was so the equipment is quite reliable. The range of the radio, these radios are used for radio-controlled airplanes and helicopters. So it's miles, which is much farther than you would ever sail a radio-controlled boat around your pond or your swimming pool. So there's no range issue. If you look at the transmitter, you'll see all kinds of switches and buttons and dials. We use almost none of it. We use there's the one on the right is for the rudder, the one on the left trims the sails in and out. You can see that there's a club under the jib. And so it's self-tacking. It has one sheet and not two like the jib on a big boat, which makes it much easier to accommodate by radio control. You don't have the two jib sheets that you have in a full-size boat where you have a human being shifting the sail across to the other side of the boat, dropping one sheet, picking up the other. With the club, you can just have one sheet and it's always attached, and it's as I say, self-tacking. The 4 of the 5 classes that we race are one design. There's a brand new one here. It's popular. We have about 20 of these in the club now. Still in the box if you want to have a look at what it looks like when it comes in the kit. This manufacturer has been quite good. This is really the first boat that performs at the level that you want to race radio-controlled sailboats. The company that makes it is quite diligent about fixing up the flaws in their kit. This is version 6. Version 1 had a few problems and they fixed them. Version 2 had fewer problems and they fixed them. Version 6 is a pretty bulletproof design. And it's very popular. It's just taken off all over the world. There are fleets of these everywhere. So you can travel to regattas if you'd like to do that. The fifth class we have is more of a development class. There are rules about the length and the weight and things like that, but the shape of the hull is kind of up to you within limits. So, and those boats are very expensive. I said you can get a DF65 going for $350. I just ordered an international 1 meter. It's going to cost me probably $6,000. And it's a very fiddly boat. It requires very precise tuning and very precise handling. You miss the slightest bit of puff and your boat length's behind and you're not getting it. These boats are more forgiving. The Soling is the most forgiving of all. It weighs 10 pounds, it will always tack. It has lots of momentum. When the wind dies, it keeps coasting for a fair while on its own wind. So it's a good beginner's boat, but it's also rewarding to sail. I still love sailing. So, any questions up to this point?
So are they starting to use carbon fiber yet in the hulls?
Repeat the
Well,
question.
yeah, the question was, are they starting to use carbon fiber? And they are. There's carbon fiber in the keel strap and the mast, but not the hull. They do try to keep the costs down, and carbon fiber is expensive, and there are limitations on shipping it. So even the IOM class, the $6,000 boat, has an aluminum mast. There's a little carbon fiber in the keel because then you get the really thin keel, and you can see the keels are quite exaggerated. There's a lot of leverage there.
You mentioned sail trim was very important. Now, is all the trim done before you put the boat in the water, or is like what are you able to trim? What are you able to control from the control?
Is all the sail trim done before you put the boat in the water, or can you control it on the water? You really can't control it. The only things you can control are the angle of the rudder to turn, and the angle of the jib, club, and the main boom to the center line of the boat, so you can let it out and let it in. If you want to be really tricky about it, there's a couple of little tricks where you sort of, for example, if you sheet the boom in very tight, you might have it pulling down a little bit, and so tighten up the reach of the sail that way. But otherwise, you can't go and adjust the cunning angle or anything like that while you're on the water. Not in these classes of boat. There might be other classes where you can do that. But most classes are content with two channels. In some rare cases, you can have a third channel just for jib trim, so the jib will be angled independently of the main if you want to do that. And then if you really read the esoteric sailing magazines, you'll find somebody has built a boat that flies a spinnaker. There was a question here. No? Yes?
What's the weather limitations?
Well, as long as you can control the boat and are willing to be out in those temperatures, there really aren't any. We've sailed them around ice. We used to sail in the winter at Port Credit when the Four Sisters were there with the warm water discharge, and the Port Credit Yacht Club was very nice to us. So we would set up the boats indoors, go out and race, go in for a drink, go out and race, go in for a drink. It was delightful.
Sounds like a good way to do it.
But the boats did get a little brittle in the cold. Any more questions before we plunge on to, are there sailboat racers here? A few. Well, what we do is pretty much the same as full-size sailboat races. You can see they go wing on wing when you're going downwind. The jib is weighted a little bit so that it kicks out. So you get quite a lot of leverage. And when the wind starts to blow, you can just bury the bow in the water, and that's your sign to switch to a smaller rig. For those of you who aren't familiar with sailboat racing, the starting line is two marks in the water arranged perpendicular to the wind. So the first mark is straight up wind, it's supposed to be. And there are no pre-assigned places on the starting line. It's kind of a scrum. But there's definitely a best place to be on the starting line. Your goal is to hit the starting line. We have a countdown timer that audibly counts down from 2 minutes to 0. In big boats, they fire a gun. In our system, we just ring a bell. But I still say the gun because it's more dramatic. So you want to be crossing the line at the gun with speed in the best position on the red tack, but so does everyone else. And so you have that initial challenge when you're at the beginning of the sailboat race. How do you handle that? And that is probably the most daunting for new people. It takes a while to figure out that the rules protect you from all of that crowd and where tactically you want to be and how to handle the boats as best you can. When you go and race at other clubs in other cities, you'll find their setup is not as good as ours in the sense that sometimes the boats are quite far from you, or you can't really manage an upwind start, you have to do a downwind start. So you need to be more flexible than you would be in a big sailboat. You need to have a better grasp of different varieties of tactics. This is how we launch at Lakefront, which is one of the 2 locations we have. Both of our locations are quite accessible for people with mobility challenges. Cars parked close to where we sail. It's easy to walk up to where you launch the boat. It's a little more difficult at Lakefront than it is at Humber Park East, which is our other location, where the pond was built for us, more or less about 40 years ago, 35, 40 years ago. We cooperate with the Parks Department. They've been pretty good about keeping trees down around the pond, which means there's no trees on one side of it. And there was just a little squabble in the Parks Department. One group of the Parks Department came and planted trees right across our lane, and the other group of the Parks Department said, no, you're not doing that, you're gonna have to take them out. So that's what we're looking at next year at that pond. But pond sailing is kind of different than sailing in an open lake, which you're used to, because the wind has to go around bushes and over trees and around things. So it's swirling, it's unpredictable. And when you're racing these boats, every little puff makes a difference because they're really so highly powered. So you need to learn how to read all those little eddies and currents and lifts and knocks.
Would you say that it would be good for somebody to read a book, or if they've never done racing before, to just go through the rules, and are there special books for this kind of racing as opposed to dodge boat racing?
Would it be good to go through the rules before you take up racing, and are there special rules for this? These are the same rules that they use in big boat racing with 1 or 2 differences. Big boat racing, they use signal flags. We don't use signal flags, we're all standing together on shore. We use sound signals, we use bells and hails. Protest, 61 protests, 52, which is what they do in big boat racing, but then you sail away from each other. In our group, you're still standing next to the person. So we have rules about civility. It's very important to us to enforce civility. And yes, it's important to learn the rules, and there are various ways to do that. There are websites that help you, and we will help you. But you can see from the video that tactical situations where you're about to encounter another boat come upon you very quickly. And if you're used to big boat racing, a race takes 2 to 3 hours. You see a boat coming towards you, you have a while to figure out which of you has right of way and what you want to do about it. But this happens very fast. The race is over in 15 minutes. You have 10 races a day or 15 races a day. So all of the decisions that you have to make in a big boat race in 3 hours, you have to make in 10 or 15 minutes, and then you make them again, because you have 10 or 15 races. You make them again, you make them again. So you have a bad race, well, there's going to be another race in another 2 minutes. So,
is the result of that this is very protest intensive?
it's an excellent question, but it really, we rarely get protests. We may get 1 a year. And the reason is we encourage people to do their turns. There's a penalty turn system in sailboat racing. If you apprehend that you might have fouled someone, you're encouraged to do in radio control racing, it's 1 turn. In big boat racing, it's 2 turns. A complete 360-degree turn, basically. And that penalizes you enough that you can't take advantage of your foul to advance yourself. And we encourage people to do that. It's a foul to touch the mark. It's foul to not keep clear of a right-of-way boat. The most common situation is at the crowded places, at the starting line. As you round the mark, you want to be clear of other boats. Even if you're in the right, you want to make sure that you don't run into somebody because it's slow. It stops you. Yes?
So if you're in the wrong, you have to do a circle immediately?
The rule is immediately sail, as soon as possible, sail well clear of the other boats.
Yeah.
Immediately do it 360, and then you can rejoin the race. So,
I
I'd like you to tell the story about the lake racing at Kingston.
Okay. I told the story at lunch about lake racing in Kingston. In Kingston, at Kingston Yacht Club, you might have been there, they're on the open lake. And so when you're racing these boats at Kingston, at that location, you're racing on the open lake. And when a wave in the lake is 1.5 feet high, that's most of the sail area covered. It blankets the boat.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden the boat goes on top of the wave and you've got a new gust. So your boat is constantly accelerating and decelerating and needs to be retrimmed. The wind is continuously variable. So it's a different set of challenges racing there. The story that I told at lunch was, these boats the electronics are set up so that when it loses the signal where the battery goes low, the rudder turns over and it starts to do a circle. You look at your boat and say, oh darn, you have to go rescue them. But one day my boat failed and the rudder didn't turn over. But it didn't go to Rochester, it didn't come down the lake to Toronto. It went at high speed onto the rocks. And sheared off the keel and the rudder. It was very badly damaged. Hence another $6,000 of replacement. But we don't lose many boats. We rarely sink. We rarely damage them in collisions beyond very minor damage. Once in a while when they collide, they might lock onto each other, which is kind of frustrating, but they usually untangle again.
So, how much does your membership cost?
How much does our membership cost? Is $30, $45?
$35
A year?
a year.
Yeah.
And that helps us pay, we have to rent we actually have to pay for permits to sail in the two parks.
Thank you.
Yes.
Say that.
Our membership is $35 or $45 a year. What we use the money for is to buy insurance, which the city of Toronto and Mississauga require us to have to use the ponds. So we share that insurance with an association of modelers around the lake. And so we all use the same insurance policy. And you're all welcome to join us. And you're all welcome to come and see what we do. And if you're at all interested, even if you're not, we'll put a transmitter in your hand and let you try out the boat. Because it's a lot of fun. And if you have that thrill that you feel when you're sailing a full-size boat and the wind blows and the boat moves, I don't know about you, but I've been thrilled by that since I was a little boy. And it still thrills me. And it's just as thrilling. It's just as amazing when you see these boats scuttling across the water and the wind is propelling them exactly where you want them to go. I think that's an amazing thing. And you don't have to recruit a crew, you don't have to join a yacht club, and you don't have to haul it out in the winter. It's a lot of fun.
I think one of the things,
Sure, there was a question at the back.
oh, question at the back?
Yeah.
Is the weight to scale like the physical dimensions, or things like batteries throw that off?
I don't know that there's any attempt to make the weight scale. The boats are really not scale. That soling is a sort of semi-scale of a full-size soling, but you can see that a full-size soling is much slimmer. Boats don't scale down well to this size. They perform much better as radio control boats with a deep keel and enough beam to stay afloat.
And a large rudder.
And a large rudder, yes.
Oversized rudder.
Apparently one of the America's Cup boats, the New Zealand one that won the trophy for them the first time, was based on a principle developed using radio controlled sailboats.
David, you mentioned class rules, what have weight limits.
Yeah.
The boats.
Well, the class rules have minimum weight limits. So that the least you can have a soling is 10 pounds. People used to turn up with 10.5 pound, 11 pound boats, which were actually still competitive. We weigh those when you have a regatta, so they make sure that you're at least 10 pounds. We don't bother weighing the 65s because they all came from the same box, and there isn't any point in trying to make it lighter. You just would tip over.
What times of year do you sail?
We have a website, metromarine.org, with our schedule on it and our locations. So anytime you want to find us, you can. We start racing in April, weather permitting, in two ways. We have a scheduled events, but also people will just send emails out saying, I'm going to the pond, who wants to join me? So We can usually be found at Humber Park on Saturday mornings where we just sort of informally fool around, and Sunday mornings where we have a more structured regatta. And the only issue for us is choice of location is weeds. Seaweed on a keel really slows down these boats a lot, and it's frustrating if you're trying to race. So our choice of location may vary depending on the weed situation in the pond. But the information about where we are is going to be on metromarine.org. And I'm sorry, Diane, you had it.
I was just going to say, in the few races that I've watched, what I found fascinating was that the language that came from the sailors was very similar to the language that comes from sailors when they're racing. So you'd be shouting, starboard, starboard! And that kind of thing. So people really get into it, and they're equally passionate with little boats as they are with big boats.
Many of our guys are former
Yeah,
big boat sailors.
many of our sailors are former big boat sailors, and some of them have been at quite a high level. So there are members of RCYC, for example, that sail very, very well. It's a captivating sport. If you're a snowbird and you go down to Florida, there are large fleets of these boats in Florida in the wintertime. And some of the sailors that sail all winter and then come and race with us in the summer are quite skilled, when the rest of us are still dusting the rust off our thumbs. So any minute now, I believe we're going upstairs to try out these boats. Please be assured that you're very welcome to try them. And you can't break them.
Do we have any more questions before we go upstairs? I know that you're just finishing your ice cream, so we'll take a couple of minutes here. Getting upstairs is, we're going to need a little help taking some of this equipment up, so if I have a couple of volunteers, that would be terrific. We are, as you know, we only have one elevator, so we probably can get 5 or 6 people into the elevator. So if you're still finishing your ice cream, then just do so. If not, perhaps we could begin to move towards the elevator now. And who do I have here? Brian, would you give us a hand? And do we need anybody else? Is one?
I think we're good. We just need to take 2 boats up, and that's just.
Oh, just 2. We're not taking the soling up.
No, this one's not working right now.
Oh, well, that won't do.
And I don't feel like going swimming.
All right, that's just fine. So if you're still eating your ice cream, continue. Make sure you've got a club member with you so you know where you're going, because some people don't know where the pool is. So with that, let's head upstairs.
What floor is
We will come back here. Our guests will want to have their ice cream when they come back. And I will bring upstairs well, actually, why don't I do that right now? Just let you know what's coming up next week. We've got Paul Henderson's loaned us the video of Maiden, which is the first all-women crew to sail the Whitbread Round the World race. And it probably will be a little crowded because we've got a lot of women who want to join us. And then the following week we have Rob and Pam Mazza, and they're going to share their recent adventures in Vietnam and Hanoi. So I won't say pipes out yet, but I won't have to repeat that until afterwards. And I won't have a bell with me upstairs, so when I say pipes out, we won't have a bell. All right, thank you. And thank you both. This has been so fascinating, and I hope that we've got a few people who will be interested in joining your club.
Well, thank you for having us. We do hope you come and see it.
Let's give them a round of applause. I will not have a microphone upstairs, so it's going to be David and Rick who will be doing the talking mostly, and you can probably be right beside them or pretty close to them to hear what's going on. My understanding, by the way, is that we're gonna have to take our shoes off when we get up there, because we can't walk on the deck with shoes on. Okay, thank you.